Welcome back to this last session of the tutorial series, and in this session we are going to be looking at how to use templates to render your data. So of course you have seen how to manipulate your data, how to query your data, how to insert data, how to work with model. Now let's see how the data that we have created, the model that we have created, how we can link it up to the user interface so that the user interface can query the database and then display the results on the user interface end so that the user can see and then relate with the information. So let's go to our code now. Of course, we are still going to be using the same code that we have, so which is still the same thing. All you just need to do after you have stopped your code for some time and you are coming back, what you just need to do is just you should activate the virtual environment. You should not forget to activate the virtual environment. Let me just confirm to be sure that I am still in the same folder. Now that I've confirmed that I'm still in the same folder, what I just need to do is just do source vmv script and I go the way of activate. And you can see that the terminal has changed, showing and confirming to me that the virtual environment has been activated. So now that the virtual environment has been activated, we then go, of course, don't forget that we are working on the student management application, which is under the project coding school. So of course you have seen how to work with static files, your HTML, your CSS, which we have looked at previously. So what you just need to do is under the student management application, just create a template. Of course, Django automatically will know that anything you put inside the template folder is automatically a static file. So just create a template, and because we are going to be having several, because you might possibly be having several applications, so you should not just leave it as templates. Of course, you should now give a description of, okay, this template is not just a template, of course, because now I can create another. Let's say for example, inside this template I have index.html, which is the default page for every HTML page, which is the default home page for every HTML website or every website. Now let's say I have this index.html. I create another application under the same project and I have index.html inside the template. Then I can mix it up and be thinking, okay, which one is the right index, which one do I want to use. So it's always good and it's always better. So let me just delete this, just move this to recycle bin. Now what I just need to do is, so that I will not get it mixed up, I should then go ahead and create a folder and possibly call it students, since I'm working with students under this application, so that if I want to call it at the parent URL, because you see how to link this with the parent URL later. But now let's say I want to call it at the parent URL, I should then have an idea of, okay, this index belongs to the student's application and this particular index belongs to the course application, so that I will not get things mixed up. Because the bigger your application go, the less it's difficult for you to manage it if you don't structure it well. So now that we have created the folder students under the template folder, which we have looked at previously on how to deal with static files, so I'll then go ahead to create base.html. Now it's always a common practice to make this base.html to be like any file you notice or any lines of code you notice that you are using in different files, then you should just put it like the commons, like the HTML tag, the body tag. Of course, every one of it we have the HTML and the body tag. So but for now, this base is now like, okay, I don't want to be repeating myself, because one of the design principle of coding is do not repeat yourself, so that you make your code neat and readable. So the base, we have our repetitive lines of code, we put it there, and every other file will now be an extension of this our base.html. So we then go ahead and create my index page, index.html, which will be like the students list page. Later on we'll be working with our student. Let's just create it. Of course, we want to also have student details page for now. So let's start with our base, which is the file that has the repetitive line of code, like the lines of code that we definitely need inside the index.html file, and the lines of code that we're also going to be needing inside the student details file. So now that we have our base.html, then I have my HTML tag, and I then inside the HTML tag I have the header. Now inside the header, let's have some meta character set of UTF-8, and I also have the meta for name. Of course, this is very important. Now in this tag, let's do some dynamic template literal, which is okay. For the home page, we expect the title to be different from the title of the student details page. So now, in order to add dynamic value to your HTML file in Django, you use this template literal with the curly braces. So for this now, I will then have a percentage. Now I will define this block as a block. Now I'll define this as a title, so you will see the usage later. So once you have defined a block, always remember to end that block. It is the working principle of Django. So we end the block title. So now let's now come to our body. And I close this body tag. And of course, then I didn't define a block, another block for the content. So notice that I call this the first block title. And this second block I'm calling it content. So it will definitely reflect when I am extending this particular base.html. So it is very important for you to pay attention, because if you use content here and when you are extending it, you are using body, because you are actually working with the body, it will not work. So you should pay attention to the name that you give the block, as that is what you'll be using to extend it when it is time for you to extend. You are going to be seeing everything in action. So don't forget that when you create a block, you should always remember to end the block. So now that we have, now look at it now that okay, all these files I've created here, all these lines of code, I don't need to now be repeating it again. So that is why we have our base.html. So now let's come to the index page. Now the index page is now our home page. So what you just need to do as a convention in Django is that we now extend this. Okay, now we extend. Don't forget that we have templates. Under the templates we have students. So what are we extending? We're actually extending students and base.html, which is under students, or which is a file inside the folder students. So we then go the way of students backslash page.html. So I think this is not needed. Of course, this is not needed. Now, so automatically now, this will now be an extension of what you have inside base.html. So okay, now that we have created that, now let's now create another block. Of course, let's now create the block title. Don't forget that in here we define a block. After when this base.html is extended, we are going to be having a block title, and when we are extending this same base.html, we are going to be having another block content, so which is dynamic, or which is changing for each for the particular file. So we then go the way of block title, and don't forget that when you create a block, or when you add a block that you want to add, you should remember to always end the block. You always remember to, that means anything you put inside this block, because this file is an extension of base.html, so anything you put inside this title block is what will be reflecting, is what will be reflected here. So it will reflect here. So anything you put inside this title block, it is what you are going to be having here. Don't forget that this your index.html is an extension of base.html. So let's just do, for now, of course, what I want us to do is have a list of the students that we have in our database. So what I just need to do is just say all, let's say 28 for now, or 28 students. We are going to be counting the number of students dynamically later. That means if you have 28 students in the database, it will say all 28 students. If you have 40 students in the database, it will say all 40 students. So for now, we are going to be working on generating this dynamically later, but for now, let's just still leave it as all 28 students. So we then go the way of, so don't forget that we have two blocks inside this base.html, which is the first one is title and the second one is content. So the second one now is content, so we then go the way of blog content, and we will then remember to always end your block. You should always remember to end your block. So I will then say, let me just display it as a table. Of course, let's see this in action. Let's see this is the content. This is the content, and I remember to save. Now take note of something here. Of course, we will come back and generate this value from, or add it from the database, but let's just take it one step at a time. So now that you have added your index.html now, which is the template or which is the static file, you should now come to your views. This is where you will be adding your views. So what you just need to do is come here and then say define, which is the function, define the function index, and the function will be taking requests. And inside this function, for now, let us just return a render. Let us just return render. Don't forget that render is coming from Django.shortcut. So let us just render. Of course, we are passing request because this request is just what we are getting from our database, so that it will be accessible to the our template or our static file, so that we'll be able to display it to the user. So this request will then take the static file, which is inside template automatically by default, and inside template we have students slash index.html. So let's just leave this for now.